Podcasting is networking. Café and Networking Podcast promotes and entrepreneurs, business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people and speaking from my studio in Brazil. Today we talk with Peter George, and he's joining us from Providence, Rhode Island in the United States. Peter's a public speaking coach. Over the past 17 years, Peter has helped professionals from around the corner to those in Fortune 100 companies learn to craft and deliver compelling presentations. He is the host of the Public Speaking with Peter George podcast and the author of The Captivating Public Speaker: How to Engage, Impact, and Inspire Your Audiences. So, Peter, how can our listeners get over their fear of public speaking?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on today. Well, if people have the fear of public speaking, there's a few ways to, not get over it. You never want to lose those feelings. You want to manage those feelings. And I'll tell you why before I get into how they can do it. If you're really nervous about something, you have an adrenaline rush. So anybody who's nervous about public speaking feels this. They get sweaty, their heart beats faster, their blood pressure goes up, their knees get weak. All these things happen to them. Well, think about when you're doing something really exciting, like the people who like to jump out of planes or off the side of a cliff or go on roller coasters, whatever it might be. What happens to their body? The very same thing. They get an adrenaline rush, their heart beats faster, they get sweaty, their blood pressure increases, their knees get weak, all the same thing. They just label it differently. Those who are nervous go, oh my God, look what's happening to my body and my brain. I'm nervous, I shouldn't be doing this. And those who want to do something like that say, oh my God, look what's happening to my body. It's preparing me to do something exciting.
Well, the plus side is we do all that with both of our feet on the ground.
Yeah, there's another plus, right? So at least for me and you, I'm not jumping off any cliffs anytime soon. But I do have a client who jumps out of perfectly good planes quite often. So with all that said, understand what's happening to you, that it's just your body preparing you to do something fun, exciting. But here's what I want people to do. Take the focus off themselves. Think of what we say. What if I make a mistake? What if I screw up? What if I forget what I'm going to say? What if they don't like me? It's all I, me based. But when we speak in public, whether it's across a desk or in a conference room or in an auditorium,
right?
When we speak in public, we're actually there to serve others.
That's it.
So instead of saying me, it's about them. It's about the audience. So take the weight off your shoulders. Take that onus off of yourself. It's really heavy. And realize that you're serving your audience. And truthfully, when you're there to serve others, how can you fail?
And you really can. Even failure is part of life.
Yeah, it is, and truthfully, Tom, I think about, and I've been speaking on stage for about 35 years now, and I think about all the times I really, really, really messed up. They're my favorite stories now.
Well, they are. When I've had similar feedback, and people have said, and I'm sure you feel that, we can come across as really being authentic. Because it shows that it's not fake, it's not made up. And I think the more at ease we can be when we jump or speak, the better we come through.
Right. So when people say get over the nerves, you don't want to get over that feeling. Just like my client who jumps out of planes, she doesn't want to get over that feeling because she says that's the time she'll go splat on the ground. If she doesn't double check, if she doesn't triple check, if she doesn't do this or concentrate on this, and she gets completely over those feelings, that adrenaline rush, that's the time to stop. So you want to just manage those feelings. And again, you're there to serve others. So if you forget what you're going to say, people understand that. It'll come back to you. You just take a few deep breaths, relax, it comes back, and you keep going. No one's ever died from public speaking. So
I think the real challenge really is just taking that first step, just speaking the first time, isn't it?
It really is. And it is a great adrenaline rush.
Can you remember the first time you got on stage?
Very well. Very well. Because it was a huge event for me.
Right.
And, I was nervous, extremely nervous, and it went well. Would I have done things differently knowing what I know now? Certainly. But how often do we know when we do something for the first time? How often do we know everything we would know 20, 30 years later?
That's true. Now, and I once learned you have to prepare yourself as a speaker to speak to an audience of one. And
exactly.
And that's not a challenge. I think that's a comfort, because when you're looking out to maybe hundreds or thousands or 10 people, just pick one.
Exactly. Tom, a lot of people say, well, I can speak to one people, I can speak to three people, but I can't speak to 25 people. No, you can't, because it's impossible.
Right.
But like you said, you can speak to one. And if you use the verbiage as if you're only speaking to one person, you might should look at all 25 people, but you talk as you're speaking to one. So when we say, well, I'm trying to speak to 100 people tomorrow, well, you're trying to do something that can't be done.
Right. You're speaking at 100 people.
Yeah, I say you show up and throw up. You just vomit information on them. And, think of the meetings we go to in business, and we say, wow, Peter could have just emailed that information to me.
Right.
If we're going there just to vomit information on people, we don't need a meeting for that. That's why they make email.
Well, these last 2 years have really brought, talking the corporate world, challenge to everyone.
Yes.
Because, it's become a virtual stage. So that fear of speaking and many of the business engagements today have been virtual networking and Zoom meetings, and you're there. You're on stage, and that's it.
So that's why a lot of people...
So you probably should learn a little bit before the first click.
That's why a lot of people get burnt out even being on the listening end of a Zoom meeting, because if they have, unless they have just their placard up there, their
right.
picture or whatever, if they have their live image up, they're on.
They're on.
You don't know if everybody's looking at you, if three
right.
people are looking at you, and odds on no one's looking at you. But that's not the way
I've seen many
feel.
companies actually sort of requiring that everybody be live, actually
Yeah.
be there to show up.
Yeah, a lot of speakers have a problem if they just put up their photo or their corporate logo or whatever in their square in Zoom or whatever. I have no problem with that. I don't care if they're washing the dishes, doing yoga. People learn different ways. I doodle when I learn.
I don't know. It's not from the speaking standpoint. It's really from the social engagement in companies that have been virtual for 2 years.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers are making a mistake there, but that's just my opinion.
Well, very good. Well, Peter, I want to thank you for sharing your time this morning with our audience. So how can our listeners find you?
Very easy, Tom, and thank you for asking. They can go to petergeorgepublicspeaking.com. petergeorgepublicspeaking.com.
Very good. And for our audience, that's Peter George. That's Peter. The last name is George. It's also on LinkedIn, and as he said, petergeorgepublicspeaking.com. Find that site, and it's just chock full of a bunch of tips for speaking as well. So, Peter, thanks for being part.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
And to our listeners, Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus Semi Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information on their website, focusmi.com. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.